Hello everybody, my name is Brechtel. I'm the CEO of Brechtel Manufacturing, and today I'm going to run through a quick video on setting up your particle in the liquid sampler, or the PILS as it's called, the model 4001. If you purchased a vial filling autocollector as an option to your PILS, that'll come later as another video. First thing you want to do is try not to drop the bottles that come with the PILS. So let's take a quick look at what you're going to get out of the box. So what we have here is the basic PILS unit. This is the chassis rack mountable collector, and you're going to get 3 different bottles. This bottle is labeled lithium bromide plus H2O. This is the bottle that you use for your ultra pure milliQ water that becomes the wash flow in the PILS impactor, which I'll talk about in a moment. You're going to get another bottle labeled pure H2O. This is the bottle that you filled with distilled or double distilled water, and this is going to supply the steam heater. Okay, we'll talk about that in a moment. And then this is simply the drain bottle, labeled drain bottle, and that's what gets connected to this output from the peristaltic pump, which is this unit right here. Alright, so let's talk a little bit about what the PILS does and what all the fittings and whatnot take care of in the PILS. So this is the front panel of the PILS. I've already mentioned the peristaltic pump. When the PILS is energized, this pump rotates and it actually pumps liquid. In this case, for example, the liquid sample flow out of the bottom of the impactor through a debubbler, which removes the air from the liquid sample stream, and it comes out to one of the channels of the peristaltic pump, and then that comes out again and supplies you with the liquid sample that would go to your analytical method, ion chromatography, or perhaps to the vial filling autocollector. So this tube would just connect right up to the autocollector peak tubing. Okay, so we also have here other channels in the peristaltic pump. You'll see these 2 channels that are going into the chassis right here. These are just collecting condensate that's collected inside of the PILS collector, which is inside the box. So these are just collecting waste liquid water. They come out here. So again, the peristaltic pump has these different pumping channels. Each one has a different tube. In this case, this is just waste. So we let these 2 waste connections come together to this barbed fitting. And then what you'll do is you'll open up this bag with your drain bottle, and you'll set up your drain bottle somewhere, and you'll just connect the tube from the drain bottle right to the barbed fitting here. Okay, just slide it over the barbed fitting, and then you can set your drain bottle down, for example, on a shelf underneath the PILS, and just let the waste flow out of here. It's going to collect at a few milliliters per hour, and that'll fill the 1 liter bottle, in about a day or so roughly. Okay, so you can see here, this is labeled pure H2O. All right, so what you want to do is you want to find the bottle labeled the same, pure H2O. This again can be distilled or double distilled water. You can see the bottle has a vent, a metal frit vent here, so that it can have contact with the air, but it helps to filter out particles. And what you want to do is you want to hook up this peri-pump tubing to the barb here. Okay, just slide it over the barb so that you get a nice tight fitting. And that means the peri-pump, when it's turned on, will draw liquid out of this. It's going to come out of this first channel here. You can see the color codes of the tubing is the same. This is red, red, and this is going into the PILS chassis, and it supplies liquid to the steam heater that's inside. Okay? This steam heater controller is already preset at the factory to the temperature that you need in order to get between 98 and 100 degrees Celsius on the steam tip indicator. Okay? This second controller doesn't actually control anything. It's only used to display the steam tip temperature, okay, which always wants to be between about 98 and 100 degrees Celsius. So this is actually the steam heater controller. This is controlling the power to the steam heater, and you can change the set point temperature here if you need to, so that this stays at between 98 and 100 degrees Celsius. Okay, but this should have been preset at the factory so that you get the tip temperature performance that you want. Okay, so the last bottle, as I mentioned previously, is labeled LIBR plus water. Okay, so LIBR is one of the internal standards that's typically used as a chemical standard to allow you to make corrections for the collection process here at the impactor. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to fill this with ultra pure water, 18 megaohm millicube water, for example, out of a very clean liquid water system. And be very careful not to touch these fittings with your fingers, or you'll get salts from your fingers like I just did when you connect this barb. Okay? So again, this tubing is a bit smaller diameter, so you want to be patient in pushing it over here. And you connect it to the LiF plus H2O tube. Could be labeled lithium fluoride, lithium bromide. They both work as chemical standards. Okay, so in this case, the liquid is being drawn out of the lithium bromide bottle into this peristaltic pump by the motion here. And then this is an orange-white color-coded tube, and it's going into the chassis where it actually internally connects to this PEEK tube, which is supplying the wash flow going into the impactor. Okay, so this would typically be on the order of a half milliliter per minute, or it depends on the size of the inside diameter of the tubing that's installed here. Alright, so the same size tubing is installed for this wash flow. This is the wash flow line going in, and the liquid sample extraction line. So this is the liquid sample outflow. So you can see they're both orange, white. Alright, so if you do need to check the flow rates coming from the peri pump, the one flow rate that you want to test is the flow rate to the steam generator, which is this front tube labeled pure H2O. And if you open up the top cover, you can disconnect this tube where it connects to the steam heater, and you can use the graduated cylinder that should have shipped with your unit in a stopwatch, and you can actually time the flow rate basically. So you should collect roughly, I think, 9 milliliters in about 5 minutes. It should be about 1.5 milliliters per minute. Alright, if you need to adjust the peri speed, you can do that with this potentiometer right here. Be very careful when you adjust it, because you need to have this graduated cylinder set up and feeding this liquid flow into the graduated cylinder to set this to the right value, 1.5 milliliters per minute. It should come from the factory calibrated, but it's always a good idea to just double check things to make sure it's running well when you have it set up in your laboratory for your experiments. You'll notice too that the peri pump has these adjustable paddles. These are what set the tension on the peri pump tubing. So you normally want these sticking straight up, just the way they are right here. Don't make them too loose, don't make them too tight. Straight up is just right. Alright? The other thing that's important to recognize, when you remove and install the peri pump tubing, you need to loosen this like this, and that lets this cassette come right out. Okay? All of these work the same way. There are 5 channels in this pump. When you install this tubing, you want to be very sure that it's not twisted. That means that the tabs on the tubing need to be pointed the same direction. Okay, so to reinstall it, you want to keep tension on this side of the tubing and you want to slide it in. Slide the cassette back in so it engages on the one side with the lip. Okay, and then you have to keep it loose, and then you push it down. Okay, and then you can pull it up to tension it right. Okay, so that's how you take this tubing in and out. Now you'll notice that this tubing has 2 sets of stops. These are called stops, these colored pieces. There's one set here, and then there's another set right here. So when the tubing in between here and here gets worn out by being used in the peri pump, which will happen after a few months of use, you can loosen this tubing and you can install this section inside the pump. So you don't need to replace the whole tubing as long as you haven't stretched the tubing so much that it's got holes or doesn't really maintain a constant flow anymore. Okay? So that's how you hook up the bottles. That's how you hook up the drain supply. And remember, this tube isn't connected to anything right now. This is the liquid sample out. So this is what you need to connect either to your ion chromatography system or to your vial filling system or to some other setup that you want to use to actually analyze the concentrations of the analytes that are in the liquid. All right? So let's turn the PILS around. I'm going to go ahead and disconnect these bottles for right now, just because it makes it a little bit easier to manipulate the unit. Okay. So this, I'm going to set these aside. All right. So in the back of your PILS are most of your important hookups. Okay. So the unit will come with these caps to protect the sample inlet, which is here, and the vacuum pump connection, which is here. All right. In order to run the PILS, you need to have a source of external vacuum. All right. So you will get a tubing harness with your PILS. You just take it out of the bag. Okay. And it already comes with the pre-connected swedge lock nut here. Okay. And this hooks right to the vacuum out. Tighten it with a wrench, nice and tight here. This is 3/8 diameter tubing. And this particular unit is shipping with an auto collector. So that means that we have split the vacuum to provide a connection to the auto collector, which I'll talk about in the auto collector video that you can look at next. If you didn't order an auto collector with your PILS, then this T wouldn't be here, and you would just get a 3/8 diameter tube like this that you would then connect to your vacuum pump. Now, one of the things I want to be clear about is that the PILS generates a lot of water vapor in the sample. Okay, so that means that the flow coming out of here is pretty saturated with water, and it's important that you use a pump. When you're going to attach a pump here, make sure you have a water compatible pump, not a carbon vein pump, not some other pump that's very sensitive to having a lot of water in the air that's being pulled through it. Diaphragm pumps are typically pretty good. Piston pumps are pretty good. You just want to make sure you have a pump that is not going to be broken by having a lot of water vapor in the flow. We generally also recommend that you dedicate a single pump just to the PILS so that you don't sort of draw the water laden flow into your plumbing for a vacuum system that's for a lot of other instruments, because other instruments could be influenced by the water that's in this flow. Okay, so that's the vacuum connection. You need to be able to pull 15 liters per minute at a half atmosphere. So this is not a small pump. It should be about a medium-sized pump, but it needs to be able to pull 15 liters per minute of critical flow. Now, what are some of the other hookups? Here's the sample inlet hookup. This is a compression fitting. It has an O-ring inside. It's designed for half-inch diameter tubing. So you can slide half-inch diameter tubing right into the sample inlet and then tighten this collar, this nut, and it will squeeze an O-ring around the tube to make a nice seal. Okay? The other thing I'll mention to you is that if you're going to sample ambient aerosol, or you don't know the gas phase composition of the sample, then you're going to want to make sure you have some kind of denuders in the line on the sample upstream of the PILS to get rid of the inorganic and inorganic gases like ammonia or nitric acid that could potentially be taken up inside the PILS sampler. So we sell these denuders as an option. You can purchase them from us. We're happy to provide them. We provide very easy hookups for those. You can get in touch with us if you need them. We also supply a separate denuder. There are 3 separate denuders: organic vapor denuder, inorganic basic gases, and inorganic acidic gases. Those 3 denuders are the ones that are typically run right on the inlet to make sure that you get rid of the gases that could potentially be taken up by the water in the PILS, and then you'll think it's aerosol species when it was in the gas, not in the particles. Okay? Notice here, each PILS is built for the specific region, for the specific voltage in the region. This is a 230 volt region. It has a 230 volt heater. You must only use it with 230 volt power here. Alright? Just be clear about that. Here you'll see a data hookup. Each PILS comes shipped with the data assembly cable that's here. You'll see this is actually a special cable. Again, this gray connector just plugs right into the data port. Get a little screwdriver and attach it so that it's screwed in nice and tight here. Okay, these 2 here. And then this is a special a USB to RS-485 converter that will plug into your laptop or tablet so that you can actually run our software, which comes on this little USB stick. Okay, if you didn't buy the tablet computer from us, then you can install this software on your own Windows PC, and once you get the PC to recognize this cable assembly, then you should be able to open up our software and it should talk to the PILS, and what it does is it basically reads the temperatures from the steam heater and from the tip. It gives you a very convenient log, a text file, for each time that you run the PILS. So you can go back and you can quality control the data by looking at timeline plots of the temperatures. Okay, remember there's a power switch here to turn the PILS on and off. And then finally, well, there are 2 things left to talk about. One is this auto collector hookup. Now this is currently not used, so don't connect anything to it. There is no cable to connect to this, but this is for future use. So in the future we will likely be integrating the auto collector more closely with the PILS. For now, the 2 don't talk to each other. Finally, this is a shock watch. And what you'll see is that these arrows are red when the unit has been shipped and not exposed to bad shock. Okay, if you get your unit and you see one or both of these are black, that means that your unit has been exposed to a certain amount of shock. It's probably still okay. This is a very robust little unit. But nonetheless, if you do see that these are black, please email us within a day or 2 of getting your PILS so that we can take the necessary precautions to make sure that if we need to get some help from the shipping company, or if we need to test your PILS quickly to make sure that it's okay, that we do so and that we see that everything is fine. Okay, so that's pretty much the rundown on how you set up the PILS and how you get it going. Before you ever ship the PILS, be sure that you dry it out. So you'd empty the bottles of water and then just let the system run for about 30 minutes, pushing all the water out and draining the water out of the system so that you ship it with no water that could freeze in shipping. And remember, when you run the PILS, you want to be periodically looking at these temperatures, making sure they're not oscillating strangely, that the tip is between 98 and 100 degrees Celsius. Every few months you want to look at the peri-pump tubing. You might want to clean it with some water and a Kleenex to get the dirt off that can accumulate. And then the other thing you might notice is here where the droplets are actually collected. Sometimes you can get a lot of air in your sample, and that could be a sign of a dirty debubbler membrane. This peak assembly here, we can ship you spare membranes that you can install by just loosening this bolt and opening up this assembly, taking the old white Teflon disc out, putting a new Teflon disc in, and just tightening this back up nice and snug. Okay? And that will make sure that the debubbler or degasser that's right here is working very well. On the inside of the chassis, there's actually a vacuum connection that's drawing the air out of the liquid sample as it flows through this front peak tubing piece. Okay? So that's basically your PILS. Please refer to the manual if you have more specific questions, for example, about the software or maintenance or other sorts of things. And otherwise, feel free to email us at bmi_info@brechtel.com if you need any more answers to specific questions. Thanks a lot for your interest. Happy aerosol sampling.